left one church from child, like, okay, survive if you can, and, so it's that kind of challenge. But we've worked with Mike over the years. We recruit for Big Ben. I mean, it was Big Ben then, but not
Right. Okay.
yeah.
All right. If you all come up with 3 lines.
Kristen, is there right here?
Yes. Yeah.
There she is. There she is.
Hey, family, go ahead on and tag share. Let's get everybody in. Family, go ahead on and tag share. Huh? Okay.
I didn't want to work it out.
Want to say good afternoon and once again, welcome to Wake Up Wednesday right here on 95.3 FM. That's right, it's the Hallelujah Station. And it's a wonderful Wednesday right here in the city. Listen, we got a lot to talk about today. I'm excited about what's about to happen. I'm excited about what's going on in the city of Gadsden, the county of Gadsden, the city of Quincy. And we're going to be talking a little bit about what's going on here in Tallahassee. Listen, I want you to know today that this is the day the Lord has made. We're going to rejoice and be glad in it. In comes the studio now, none other than the chick herself that has everybody checking their conscience. That's right. It's none other than the conscious chick. On the phone lines with me is none other than
Hey, y'all.
Dr. Saylor. Good afternoon, Dr. Saylor. How are you? Amen. Glad to have you. And we're going to talk to you for just a few minutes and let you kind of like give us a little update on what's going on with One Church, One Child. In the studio with me is none other than Mr. Al Williams. And also we have Miss Olivia. And we're going to talk a little bit to both of them. But while we got you on the line, I know your schedule is really, really busy. But while we got you on the line, just a few minutes, tell us a little bit about what's going on with One Church, One Child. All right. You just heard it from the executive director, One Church, One Child, but we're going to dive more into it with the presence of our good brother Al. And it's happening May 11th. But those of you who are listening to the broadcast, stay tuned. We're going to talk way more about it. We're going to tell you some more things that's going on. And then we're going to really have an amazing conversation with an amazing young lady who has dedicated her life to serving. And what's so amazing about it, you just got to stay tuned to hear the story. Don't go nowhere. I want to say good afternoon to none other than the conscious chick herself, Christy. How are you?
Hey, y'all. This is going to be an awesome conversation today. Listen, it's one that touches my heart personally. So I think that every family, every person, our community, I'm going to say the Black community, needs to be tuned into this conversation more specifically because it's dealing with our kids.
All right. Well, listen, we're going to take a break. And after that, it's going to be on you and Al and Olivia. I'm going to try to put on my skates and skate out for a minute. Keep it locked right here, 95.3 FM. It is Hallelujah 95. And we'll be right back. Gotta figure out what's going
Did he say put on his skates and skate out? Y'all didn't hear that,
Okay.
people. He said put on his skates and skate out. And he did. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Yes, sir.
That's how you rock and roll.
Hyperbole. Is that what they call hyperbole?
Okay.
All right, we
Okay, y'all do.
broadcast.
Yeah.
Hey, y'all.
Good.
All right, got one viewer coming on in. All right. Listen, go ahead and post and share today's broadcast. We definitely want to make sure that all of our faith leaders are listening in today. We want to make sure that we're posting and sharing the information about the upcoming event in Gaston County for One Church, One Child. We want to make sure that you're asking your questions. As we get into the meat of the conversation today, feel free to post online and to ask. There's going to be a lot that you're probably going to ask in regards to this conversation about our local foster care system. Hey, all right. We have come back. And if you're listening in, this is the Greg James Community Show. This is Christy Henry. I am here with my with our leader and pilot here, Greg James Community Show. Pastor Greg James is here, and we are looking forward to the conversation today with Reverend Al Williams, who is my neighbor.
Yes, right. That's
Yes,
right.
right. Callan, not Callan, College Terrace representing.
That's right in the house.
All right, Southside in the house.
Yeah.
With tremendous impact throughout the state of Florida and region, and his work and his advocacy for children, our children in the foster care system. And the Reverend dictates his perspective on that work because he believes that strong churches can support children that are orphans, and that's biblical, right?
That's
that
right.
we tend to the orphan and the widow. Can you talk a little bit about that as we move into this conversation about our kids in the foster care system?
Right. Well, we know that the churches are here to serve,
Yes.
and that's the purpose. And the mission is to serve those who are least, the lost, and the left out.
Mm-hmm.
And we know that God put that commission to the church to take care of the widows and orphans, as you said earlier. But if they're not aware of the situation and the problem and the impact it has made on our community,
Yes.
then they're lost without the information. So we want to be here today to share and show how that has impacted our community, how our children are aging out with nowhere to go. We need church partners to step up and say, well, look, we can bring you under watch care. We need to help these children develop into the young adults that God has called them to be, and that they can make an impact on our community, but not to leave them out there to the wolves.
That's right.
So we are responsible, and I know that we're going to do even more about this particular epidemic, that we have in our community.
Yes.
And if we don't save us, who will?
Come on now.
So we can't look for Uncle Bubba and Auntie May to come down if we don't look at ourselves, look in the mirror and say, look, these are my children, these are our children, these are our neighbors, these are Miss Sally's children who now she is
That's right.
has lost her job, and how can we help keep that family together rather than having them to be placed in care? So it's all about prevention,
Come on now.
intervention.
Yes.
So we can save our community, but if our churches are not willing to step up and do what is right, God will hold us accountable.
Sir.
Hold us accountable.
Sir, you is preaching this afternoon, and I meant to say is to all the grammarians out there. He is preaching this afternoon.
Hey, I gotta tell the truth.
You better tell it. And listen, I think that this is, I'm gonna try to keep my emotions down because this is really close to home for me. Which is why I'm so glad to have, in addition to Reverend Williams here, an awesome young woman, Miss Olivia Thomas, who is here with the Northwest Florida Health Network, who serves as a foster family support specialist, but she's also a mom. She has been a foster mom. She's an adoptive mom. So she knows the rooter to the tutor in this conversation on a personal level. Welcome, Miss Olivia. And based on your experience, personally and professionally, I know a lot of that echoes what Reverend Williams just said, that we have to step up as a community to keep our kids from getting into care. But if they get into care, being here to be able to care for those that are in care.
Yes, I agree with that, Christy. We have too many of our children that is like Reverend said, fall into the wolves. Not they have a lot of issues, they have a lot of problems, they have a lot of trauma, and a lot of times that people do not know how to deal with their trauma. people do not know how to deal with the children. But if it's our culture,
Right.
and if it's us, we know how to deal with them, and we can keep them from moving from home to home
Right.
to home, and keep them within the circle of friends, the circle of family
Mhm.
that these children need. And myself, like I said, I adopted 4 siblings.
Yes.
And I kept
Good,
them
good.
together.
Yeah.
I did not
Yeah.
want them to go here, there, everywhere.
Mhm.
I kept them together, and that's what we need. We need us to keep them together.
That's right. So I want to stay right there, right? Because I think that the foster care system is like that taboo topic that nobody wants to talk about until they have to, right? Everybody knows that family that keep kids, right? Or knows that family that shelters children. But it's not a primary conversation, at the table. Kind of lead us, Reverend Al, and then Miss Olivia, into a kind of a summary understanding how the system works.
Okay. Let's take it back. We're going back a little bit. We think about when we grew up, we had that neighbor that we saw the kids there. We knew the kids. We grew up with and played with them, but didn't know that they were foster kids at the time, Or there may have been some kids in a family that your family may have brought in, and they grew up as your, thought it was a sister and brother, but they were foster kids, so we've gotten away from that, but Auntie, we brought in anybody kids, we raised them, we didn't put them in the system.
Right. Okay, say that again now.
We did not put our kids in the system.
Come on now.
And now we walked away, we say it's a quick fix, let's give them to the department, let them raise them. But God gave you those kids.
Yes.
You had them. You need to take the responsibility. If you can't raise them, get some help.
Yes.
There are a lot of services out there. Church have ministries. Department have requirements that a family have to keep in order to get their kids back, right?
Yes,
so when those kids have been removed, we're gonna say, well, what does that mom got to do? She got to learn how to cook. She got to learn how to clean the house. So look, churches already have culinary ministries. They already have couples ministry. We can bring those families to the church. Let the church use the ministry and work with those families. Have a safe place where the families can go and visit these kids. They don't have to go to McDonald's trying to say, I can visit my kids on a Friday at McDonald's. The doors of the church should be always open. Go right down to Bethel. Our doors are open. Reverend Holmes will not mind if the family will need to come there, have a safe place to talk with her mother and the children, get there, do what they got to do in the departments, right there, checking the list. Okay, you met your requirements. We're trying to get you some reunification rather than keep those kids separate in the system, aged out, nowhere to go, and they're back on the streets. And when they're back on the streets, either going to be in jail, they're going to be dead, or human trafficking is going to pick them up. And that is a major crisis right there all across the country. Human trafficking is snatching up our kids. As soon as they walk out the door, they're waiting on the corner for them, picking them up. And that's all across America,
You said a key thing, family. When I grew up, I had sisters and brothers, but I also had extended sisters and brothers. My mom took in 3 of her sisters' children, and they became my sisters and brothers.
Yes.
She didn't allow them
Right.
to go into the system.
That's
She
right.
let them come and stay with us. And that's what we need. We need more families that's going to step up and take the children so that they won't be in care, so that they can get the help, so that they can still feel that family instead of going to a new home and being with people that they don't know, and they have to get used to new rules,
Right.
new this, new that. And what happened is, if they're not us, and if they don't know our culture, and if they don't know how to raise our children, our kids are going to rebel.
And
Number
they're going to
one,
be traumatized.
exactly.
Yes.
And so therefore, like you said, we need our people to come and step up, to go out, to find out what they need to do to help our children. And also, like you said, in the church, there's too many churches around where we have a whole lot of people that can come out. They may not know how to do it. They may not know where to start. But trust and believe, I'm going to leave my name and number, and I will give the information so that they can start to come in, because we need families.
Right.
There's too many children coming into the systems and a lot of them coming in the system, a lot of them coming with behavior, a lot of them coming with trauma. We also need that training in the church.
Right.
Yes.
And you said something right there about the trauma. And what one church which I was working on, we working with out of our Jacksonville office. We just started a little pilot. It's called trauma-based training, where they're training the church to how to understand trauma and to deal with those individuals, even in the church. So that ministry needs to start even in the church, rather than having our kids always having to go to some psychologist or Then they put them all on medication and everything. But we need to know how to deal with the trauma
That's right.
and address those issues with our kids. And then once they feel somebody's caring for them and love them,
Yeah.
they will be able to overcome these obstacles. But if we don't do it, it's not going to get done.
So you said two things that is very critical, and let me just kind of, position this for those who may have just tuned in and listening. We are talking about the foster care system. Let's just be clear. All right, we're coming at it from a faith-based advocacy perspective and from a governmental, a nonprofit organizational perspective. And I think the thing that we have both decided today is that it's a cultural responsibility that as Black families, as Black community members, we need to take on the mantle of. So to those who are listening to you who say, what? How are these kids coming in care? She's saying that there's so many of these kids coming in care. Talk about the why. Talk a little bit about how these kids are coming in care. Without getting too,
Let me say this because my first career started with the Department of Children and Families, and I worked at the abuse hotline.
Okay.
And we would receive calls all across the state, alleging abuse, neglect, whatever. But the majority of our kids that came into care, they were not abused or not abandoned. It was because there was not enough food in the house, or they would go and say, okay, well, they didn't know that Miss Sally across the street was going to feed these kids until mom get home that night. So when they come and investigate, open the refrigerator, they don't see any food. So look, okay, now we got some issues here. Neglect or inadequate food or whatever. So we have to get the investigators to be culturally sensitive and understand our community, rather than to remove our kids, but to say, well, did you know that mom had this in place?
Right.
Rather than you heard that, okay, they don't have any food. But first find out what's really going on with the family. How can we help assist? Then let's connect mother to the services that are in the community.
Okay.
That there are food that, for example, Urban League gives out food. There's food banks all across the city.
Right.
So let's just take care of the issue with food. But we got to make sure that when those investigators come, they understand how our community and how our culture really operates,
Yeah.
And so we can't automatically say it's a removal, so it's just a matter of services, so the mother may be a young mother who didn't know that she could qualify for additional services or food stamps or whatever they call it now, SNAP, right? So the mom need to get some SNAP, so we need to make sure that she's aware of all these services that are available before they come in and say, okay, now I'm removing your kids because you don't have adequate housing or adequate clothing or shelter or whatever, But as you know, we didn't have everything when we grew up,
Right.
But we made it work. And the community helped raise those kids, But now the kids are not being raised by the parents. They're not being, the school can't do anything with them. So we got a whole out of control situation here that who's going to help these kids get back where they need to be. So it's a responsibility of the community, the church, the department. I mean, it's taking everybody to come together because, after the COVID pandemic, we had a lot of grandparents who was caring for our kids, right? Grandma died. Sibling groups.
Yes.
No one to care for these kids. Now, the whole group got to come back into care because grandma was the one who was caring. We don't have a lot. We lost. It was so many kids that came into care, sibling groups during the pandemic than ever before.
Wow.
And so now we got to find some new grandmas. That's out there who have retired, who say, I could take on a sibling. I can maybe take 2 kids. Maybe I got an extra house now. All my kids are grown. I got these bedrooms back and not even being used. Well, you know what? I don't want to foster, but maybe I can become a respite. I will take these kids for a weekend. I would leave the foster parent. She got to go to a doctor's appointment. I'll take them for a couple of hours. Or we will see, we can expand services through the church. That foster parent has been a hard week. How about we just go and buy pizza for that family for the night? She don't have to cook. To get an opportunity maybe her and her husband want to go on a date. They hadn't been on a date in 20 years because they've been fostering. So we have respite opportunities where families or the church ministries have a night where they can bring the kids to the church. We're having movie night or whatever. And think about it. It's a win-win. The church has already reached out to these families. When that family say, I know right down the street, Pastor Smith was helping us out. Where do you think I'm going to go? Well, I'm going to join that church because they showed me that they care, And we can open the doors of the church with under watch here. They don't have to join the church, but at least come in and nurture that family until they get on their feet and say, you know what? I love this church. I'm gonna make this my family church. Now you got a family in the church. Now you got somebody who's now contributing to the church. The family is secured now because we got all these wraparounds. We got the kids in the youth ministry. Now mama's in the single ministry or the couples ministry or whatever. But we got the church around this family, protecting them.
Right.
You know, and that's what God requires. We got to take care of the widows and the orphans and the children. He's required it of us. But we so busy building buildings and doing everything else. What about the people?
That's right.
What about the family? What about the children?
About the children. And you just talked about a really great construct of an ecosystem of care. Right. And that's old school church.
Right. That's
you keep saying watch care. I keep like going back in my mind.
You know why
that's
you came to college, right?
Come here under watch care.
That's right.
Listen, they had those functional ministries that had those ecosystems of care to take care of those vulnerable, unattached, setting the solidarity in families, right? In the church family. God being glorified through our service to one another. I want to throw it over here. Why are these kids? So he talked about economic circumstances, environmental circumstances that the church can remedy through adequate connection and resources. But why are these kids coming into care?
From my point of view, the kids are coming because there's not enough support for the families. We're going to talk about daycare. They don't have anybody to watch their children, number one. They can't afford the daycare. Daycare cost is so high nowadays. And not only that, but environmental hazards. You know, maybe they don't know how, or like you said, our community, the house may not be as dirty, but according to who comes out to look at the house, they may say, oh no, this is environmental hazard for the children. Another thing is that we need to really touch on is the substance abuse. Substance abuse and alcohol abuse and all of that plays a big part in why our children are being sheltered. You know, and we need to get these parents help. We need, and the church can come and do that. We need to get them into church. We need to get them some support. We also need to get them some resources. A lot of our kids are coming into care because of the mental illnesses. And it has gotten worse because of the pandemic. You know, the mental illness, the substance abuse, the daycare costs, with not being able to work, you know, not being able to go and buy food, not being aware that there's food banks, not being aware of there's things out there that can help you. Number two, not only that, but if they find all these resources, how are they going to get there if they don't have a car? So it's a lot of barriers that these parents are facing. And a lot of them are young. A lot of them don't have their parents that they can go to and say, hey mom, hey dad, what can I do about this? You know, or mom and dad has to try to keep themselves on top and can't help out with helping them buy food, helping them watch the children. They have to work. Things have gotten to be so high nowadays. How can these parents afford this kind of stuff? Then not only that, if they go and try and apply for SNAP, what you want me to do? You want me to work to take care of my kid because I can't afford to get on food stamps because I make too much. So what choice do they have? I can't afford to pay the daycare, so I'm gonna have to leave maybe my 10 or 11-year-old home to watch the kid, which you can't do. But you know, they got to pick and choose. And since they have to pick and choose, what happened is the kids go to school or somebody find them and people will call that into the hotline. When they call it into the hotline, then that's when they come in and they talk to the children. And the children, kids don't lie. We know that. And we know about the things that kids will say. And so therefore, then they may shelter them. But it all depends because every call that comes in, the kids are not sheltered. What they do is they will give them resources. They will allow them to go ahead and get on their feet and, you know, keep coming back to see and check on them, make sure that the kids are okay. But it falls back into the parents' hands to make sure that they do what they're supposed to do. And a lot of times those parents, they start off good. They start off well, but they fall through the crack. And the next thing that I'm going to say is our parents need that support. The kids' parents need that help. You know, if if they have someone that can support them and help them, like we are the foster family support specialists.
Right.
We help the foster families and also try to, talk to our foster parents about being partnership and with the bio parents
Mhm.
because they need that support. They need that encouragement. If they don't get that encouragement, if they don't get that support, why would they want to go ahead and do it? They don't have any to go ahead and say, I want my child back. Because when the child is gone, it's easy for them to work. It's easy for them to do this.
Yeah.
They think I'm going to go and do this to get my kid back. I'm going to make sure I do this. I'm going to make sure I do that. If nobody is really constantly calling them and talking to them and encouraging them,
Mhm.
you don't have your kids.
Mm.
So if you don't have your kids, where is the hope?
Yeah.
Where is the hope? They're going to lose the hope.
Mhm.
So I think with resources, support, education
Yeah.
to some of these, these workers,
Right,
education culturally,
Mhm.
then a lot of kids may not get sheltered.
Mhm.
Right. And I would just to comment on that part about when the kids come into care, and I had a kid that was in the area over near Gainesville, Lake City area. That's what it was. We went to a prayer breakfast, and so the foster parents had brought the kids out, and this one kid that was there, he said that he had been in 35 foster homes.
Yeah.
35 foster homes, and just so happened that during that prayer breakfast, the pastor ended up fostering and adopted him.
Oh.
Adopted the young boy, but he was just about to age out. He said he had been in care since he was like maybe 4,
Have mercy.
and been just throughout the system, had never had a permanent home.
Mhm.
And then the pastor ended up adopting him just before he aged out, and that's the kind of thing that we don't give up hope. It may be at the day before you turn 18, still hold on. Even kids once they age out, they can still be adopted.
Right.
Yeah. So don't think about it. If you out there, you don't have a mother or father, and you have a child. Your child don't even know a grandmother. Where's your grandmother for?
That's right.
So those are little things that the kids that grew up in foster home is not being able to experience because now they've been removed. And then when they're adults, they say, I don't even have my family. Where's my family? Now where's my kid going to connect? So it's like a generational.
It is.
Generational
curse. That was a generational
Right.
curse. That we have to break that curse.
Yes.
And understand that we are here. We can service these families, help them to get back on their feet. But you mentioned about the drug pandemic, the opioids. When that was really started out, so many families were destroyed because of drug abuse.
Mhm.
And it wasn't just our community. And it got to be, all across. It was, it was this is like worse than the crack pandemic,
Mhm.
So now we see that families are really suffering, they got mental health issues, as you said, that there's no counseling enough to be provided for all the families that are there. Then you have issues of unemployment, economic things. I mean, so many things that are against our families. So we need to bring our communities together and provide the resources. That's what's happening over at the prayer breakfast over in Gaston County next week. The Gaston County School Board and their community resources all coming together and want to share with families, say, look, we have these resources here for you. Let's prevent your child from coming in care. Let's prevent you from losing your children, knowing that these services are available.
Mhm.
So Mrs. Johnson, Ms. Muse Johnson over in Gaston County School is going to also be a part of this program. At the end of it, we're going to explain all the resources and services that families can qualify are available for them. We have a large Hispanic population there.
Right.
That's going to be a part of this. We know that our family is going to be there.
Mhm.
So we got to make sure that they know, hey, look, these services are here. We can help you not to get into the system, but let's prevent you from getting there. Let's make sure that the school board is aware of a lot of issues because they see our kids. The teachers see these kids every day.
Right.
And my wife come home some days and tell me some things about how the kids are, what they're struggling, how they're acting out, and things that I said, it's really out of control.
Yeah.
It is
out of control, and then the teachers are not able to control some of these behaviors, and then you got to call the resource officers, the law enforcement. But it's all about it's mental health issues that our children are experiencing and not getting any type of services.
And where is the help?
Right. Where is the
that
help?
for
Who's
our
coming to help?
children?
Who's coming to help?
That's right.
Well, what is the help and where is the solution?
Right.
Because
Right.
at the end of the day,
Right.
yes, it is guaranteed better for them not to lose their family identity.
Right, right.
It is guaranteed better. That is the optimal result, right?
Mhm.
Yes.
But in the way that they do, because we know, and I want to make sure that our audience knows who's listening online, what happens in foster care is that parental rights are terminated. I want that to sink into people who are listening. That means that your mama, your daddy, as you know it, cease to be identified as your mama and your daddy.
That's right. If they don't do what they're supposed to do to get those children back.
Right.
Now, with our agency, it's a 12-month permanency.
Okay.
They get a case plan and they have to work that case plan.
Mhm.
The case managers try to alleviate the barriers that they have.
Right.
And so if they alleviate the barriers, they have to have that inner will
Yeah.
to want to do what they need to do to get their children back. You know, and that's why we, with the foster parents, we tell them to partner with the parents to encourage them,
Mm-hmm.
because the case manager is going to do what they have to do. But
Right.
just with the foster parents, letting the bio parents know, I have your back, I have your
Right,
child,
right.
I'm going to take care of your child,
Right.
and give you that time to do what you're supposed to do to get back on your feet.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, it's an inner will to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it goes longer than 12 months.
Right.
You know, because at a point they may not do it the first 8, 9, 10 months.
Mhm.
But then when they come back and say, you know what, I need to do this. And then they have that opportunity again to go and do it. And at a certain point, if they don't do it, then yes, the rights will be terminated. And it's for the mother and the father.
Mm-hmm.
But in our agency, we do look for other family members
Right.
that can take the kids.
Yes.
But a lot of times the family members, they don't step up to take the kids, or either they already have
Mhm.
some of the other siblings and it's too much for them to handle.
Mm-hmm.
So then that's enough reason why they go and care.
Right.
You know, or sometimes the family members, you know, back in our day, we don't care what you got. You
Mhm.
gonna come on.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
you gonna come on. Our community, if you do this, you do that. It don't matter. We're gonna talk to you. We're gonna do whatever. We're not
Right.
gonna send you nowhere.
Right.
Nowadays, it's harder for these other family members to take the kids.
Mm.
You know, like we said before, the resources are not there. The money is not there.
Right.
So, and not only that, you may already have a child that have behavior issues.
Mm.
And so you're dealing with those behavior issues, that trauma.
Mhm.
So therefore, you don't want to take another one. Where I be saying, just take them.
Mhm.
You know,
Mhm.
just take them and train them and teach them and, you know, love on them and do what they have to do. And their behavior going to change.
Mm.
And you said something, I'll cut you off. You said love on them.
Love on
Yeah.
them.
That's what
All
our
they
kids
need.
need, just some loving. You know, some
That's it.
attention, some other baby, you're gonna be all right.
Yes.
You know, and even I know my wife, she experiences it every day. She said, I have to be saying silent prayers for my children, you know, just because they're experiencing so much, and when they come to school, you don't know what is happening at home.
Right.
Right.
You know, and like I said, may not be in the food home. They didn't rest at night.
Yes.
Right.
You know, there's some other things happening. There's a whole plethora of drug abuse in the community, and these kids are
Mhm.
afraid to step out the
Mhm.
door
Mhm.
because they know who they're going to be approached by.
Mhm.
You know,
Right.
so we are, as a community, we really have to look into ourselves and say, well, what is it we're going to do? You know,
What is it we're gonna do?
what are we going to do? You
That's
know,
the solution.
yeah.
Mhm.
What are we going to? We can't sit there and continue to have meeting after meeting and nothing happens, or we talk about it and then we right back 6 months later doing the same thing again. Well, we got to at least share the resource and let them know what's available, and then try to encourage them to come. You know,
Yes.
this is available. How can we encourage these families who are out there? And a lot of them don't know that these resources are available.
Yeah.
And so we need to get our churches to sound the alarm. To look, these are services that you can qualify for. Here, you know, put them out, word of mouth, Facebook, all this. Everybody's on social media,
Right.
you know, and put it out there where, you know, hey, if anybody's in need of service, anybody who's interested in fostering or adopting like we do, look, we need families. We are in a crisis. We don't have enough families, and our kids that come in care. There's no home, so our kids got to be sent to Jacksonville, Miami.
Yep.
Nowhere. How is mom without transportation gonna go and visit the kid and get reunification because she's already having transportation?
Yes, goodness. And we're gonna take a slight pause right there because we need to have a conversation about this. No, this needs to be understood because again, foster care is that industry that people don't understand until they have to,
Yeah.
right? And your appeal today to our audience is you need to know and you need to be involved. So we're going to take a brief break on the Greg James Community Show here with One Church, One Child, Reverend Al Williams, and with the awesome Olivia Thomas. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Listen.
Yeah.
Listen, if you're online, I see how many of y'all looking. I see a couple of y'all looking on there. That's a bad 4. Listen, post and comment. I know you're probably listening. I am trying to not be on the verge of tears having this conversation today, but it's a heavy one. So if we're if you're feeling a little bit some kind of way, understand this is that topic to feel some kind of way about. But we really want to make sure that events like what One Church, One Child is doing, efforts that Miss Olivia is doing with Northwest Florida Children Network, that we are Health Network, that we are doing what we can to support our children, because there are children
Right.
in this system. So if you have any questions, let me look at the chat right quick and see what we got.
Can they hear me on this one?
They can hear you over here on the broadcast. If you want to just say, hey, thank you.
What's
I got
up,
my
Greg?
bag.
All right, we
Hey,
got
everybody.
comments. Oh, we got 8 comments.
Oh, wow.
Hey there, how you doing? Respite. Yes. Thank you for tuning in, Prophetess Krisha. We definitely want to make sure that we are posting and sharing this information because it is a huge conversation. So thank you so much for tuning in. And again, we want to share the event that is coming up. Reverend Al, if you can share it with the audience on here.
Yes, we're One Church, One Child, and the Gaston County School Board services there. We'll be hosting a prayer breakfast there at New Dimensions Church there in Gaston County.
All right, we're
and
coming back.
inviting everyone to
coming
come
back
out.
on.
So
Yes, sir. We're coming back on. And Reverend Al, we're just talking to our viewing audience,
Yes.
and he's sharing with us about an event. If you're just joining us, this is the Greg James Community Show. We're talking to One Church, One Child of Florida, Reverend Al Williams, known community advocate for our children in foster care, and also Miss Olivia Thomas, who is a family support specialist for the Northwest Florida Health Network that deals with, supports foster families and families throughout our area. This is a very heavy conversation. Okay, so I just want to kind of just set the tone for this, because if we're looking at issues like gun violence, we're looking at issues like youth imprisonment, we're looking at issues of delinquency among youth, we can see right now that this is a targeted, vulnerable population for our community. But also, sometimes in our minds, we roll back the economic value of that life because we see that the parent has left them. And so the fact that they've been deserted, or the fact that they are now without parents, tends to have a mindset of devaluation of these lives. And when they get older and they get to be teens and they're still searching for identity and they turn to the things that aren't profitable, we tend to write them off.
Right.
Well, we know that they just gonna be another number, on the lineup, right? On the child line, right? Let's talk about that, right? How does this system impact the economic value of our communities? And where's opportunity here to make a difference?
Well, let's look even further, and we think about once our children are in the 2nd grade, the correctional system has already started looking at prison, where our kids should be at 2nd grade. So those same kids are not identified even academically. By the time they get to middle school or high school, what the dropout rate is there, And so if we're not providing those kids with what's needed to get that foundation in education, they're gonna definitely get in some situation where, hey, I don't even have the skills to stay in school. I don't even know. I mean, my wife tell me things about these kids are middle schools that don't even know how to count well. I mean, even write or know their numbers, as people say, multiplication tables. Some of these kids are already struggling, trying to get on board. And then so the school system is struggling, trying to serve these special needs kids who already got academic issues, and now you got to topple that with family issues of being now placed in care because mama can't provide or dad can't provide the services of what's needed to keep them as a family. Then they're removed, placed in care in a home with strangers who who really may not even be the same cultural sensitivity as our kids are.
Mhm.
For example, our kids go into care, and families may not even know how to care for our kids' hair.
Mm.
You know, basic things.
Yeah.
And then so you see, and have you ever been walking in the mall and you see our kids and you say, "What's going on? Why is that?" You know, so then we can't say anything. Well, why do they have our kids? Well, because we have not stepped up to get our own kids.
Right.
So we can't point fingers and say, well, if they should know how to do it. Well, if we step up, we can take care of our kids, comb their hair, grease them up like they have lotion on them in the wintertime. All those things.
The mangoes.
Right. Those are things that we know from our childhood that mom and took care of us.
That's right.
So if we don't share that and we don't wrap our arms around even the foster parents, we gotta wrap our arms around them.
Yes.
Say, look, there's a beautician shop down the street there called Beauty Faces. We can take the babies over there and they will give them a free hairdo,
Yeah.
So all the community, same thing with our boys, take them to the barber shop. They will do those things free for foster parents. So that's why everybody can come in and save families. I'm gonna tell you a little story about how One Church, One Child got involved. How we started from came into existence with our Catholic priest. Father George Clemens was in Chicago, and at the time Gregory Kohler was the secretary there. And he came to the church and said, "Look, we got a big crisis here with these kids coming to care.
Right.
There's no one to take these kids." And he said, "Well, why are you coming to me?" He said, "I'm a Catholic priest. I can't adopt." He said, "Well, look, if you all don't care for your kids, neither do we."
Oh, say that again
He
now.
said, if you don't care for your kids, neither do we. And this is the department.
Which speaks to the economic value. I'm telling you, this thing is deep.
It goes deep.
It's deep.
So if we don't care for our kids, we don't take care of them, then okay, who else gonna take care of them?
Have mercy.
Right. And so Father said, well, look, it pricked his heart. He said, I just could not stand by idly and see our community as is continue to fall to the wayside and no one is concerned about us. So he went to the Vatican and had to get approved by the Pope that he could adopt kids. So Father ended up adopting 4 boys. Yeah. Father died like 3 years ago. I think he was like 90 something years old. But what he did, he made an impact. And so the Secretary Kohler saw that's where the birth of One Church, One Child came in from Father George Clemens there in Chicago. And then that program was brought to Florida by George Kohler. By Greg Kohler. And so it was people like Reverend Holmes, Bishop A.J. Richardson, Dr. Awad, it was the department and others who came and said, okay, yes, we need this program here in Florida. And then One Church, One Child, at the time before privatization, we were in 35 states, all across this country. States were knowing the importance of One Church, One Child and foster care and making sure our kids at home. But that privatization cut funding all across the state. Florida and maybe 3 or 4 of the states has this program still, and Florida's still leading because we only have like 3 offices, one in Jacksonville, Tampa, and a satellite office in West Palm Beach. And so, and headquarters in Tallahassee. So we're covering the entire state. Well, you got to read, we have to cover the whole state with 3 people, perhaps. Yeah. And so, and let's go back to this whole thing about economics and how can we serve our community if we don't have enough people bringing the awareness to our community, letting us know. So we need foster parents, we need adopted parents, we need mentors, we need churches, we need businesses. Everybody got to come together and work as to see how can we resolve the issue of our kids constantly coming in care and remaining and aging out and then where they are.
Well, Reverend Al, so somebody just texted me, Miss Olivia, because they listening to this broadcast, and they said daycare and substance abuse is the fruit and not the root.
Right.
So when if we're gonna have a real conversation about why we are in this situation, right? I don't want to 100% be like systemic racism, but. Maybe, right? Maybe there's an equity issue. Maybe, I don't know. It's a deep conversation.
And I know sometimes this is a hard conversation, and this conversation sometimes cannot be had.
Yeah.
Because right? Because you know who the powers that be, right? And understand that we got to come up with this game plan. How we gonna tackle this issue because the service is not going to always be there, and funds are being cut daily. Right. Legislators are not passing bills that fund every organization to get funds to help our kids. A lot of them are closing, because we can't get enough families. And then the other issue is that
we recruit families, and then we say, oh, well, certain regions of the state say, oh, we can't use that family because they want young children, and we're not going to use them because the only thing we have is older kids. That no, if you can't get older kids, we can't use you. So they're discouraging families who want to step forward and say, I want to help these kids, but I got to take a certain age or certain, you know. So it's that's another problem.
But I gotta go back now and bring it in, Miss Olivia. Okay, because I gotta go back. I know it's certain conversations that quote unquote we can't have, but I think that is why it's important to have convening organizations like One Church, One Child, like Northwest Florida Health Network, because the issue here is if public policy is dictating outcomes. Hear me well. If public policy is dictating outcomes, and we're looking at our outcomes, then we have to address obviously the fruit, but we're gonna have to address the root too at the same time, right? Because we know that there's a root to every tree and every fruit that manifests from that tree, right? Exactly. So we ain't crazy. But today, I think, and you can speak to this, Miss Olivia, there's just a disproportionate number from my purview, and I've seen all kids in care, and I've seen all races take all kids. But I keep seeing our kids. I keep seeing the behavioral aspects. I keep seeing the medicated resolve. And so coming into care, it is coming into care. But where's the solution balance between prevention and intervention post?
We're gonna go back to support.
Okay, support.
We're gonna go back to resources.
Okay.
We're gonna go back to I'm gonna touch on this education. Like you said, these kids done went to 35 different homes.
35.
So how many schools they done went to?
Have mercy. Come on now.
How can they adjust?
Right.
How can they get acclimated to one teacher, one rule with the school, learn it on top of everything else that they have to go through?
Right.
And if you start in the second grade and you go to a different school, you got to start over again. Just like going to a different home, you got to start over again.
Right.
What we need is families that's going to take their time and not give up.
Right.
Yes.
Not give
A
up.
lot of families will give up because of the behaviors or because of the trauma. It takes 6 months before the child get comfortable, before the child trusts you.
Yeah.
You know, this is someone new. I don't know you.
Yeah.
I'm
somebody walks in, you
I'm
stranger,
scared.
you're in their house. Are you gonna sit there and do
Exactly.
very little, you know, because you don't know these people.
Exactly. So therefore, it comes more with training of the foster parents.
Right.
It comes with more training of the workers that work with the kids.
Yes.
It comes with getting information on trauma, educating yourself on how to deal with some of these kids. A lot of you think may be traumatized and you think maybe having issues, but here we go back to the love. A real person, a real true love and true discipline.
Yes.
That's what it's about.
Yes.
True love and true discipline. Not only that, but we're going to go back. I'm going to always say support.
Yes.
You know, you don't have no support, and how are you going to be able to continue to do what you do? I support all my foster families. I'm available for them 24 hours of the day. If they have an issue, I go talk to them. I go let them know what will work. I go let them know what will not work because I'm educated on parenting.
Right.
You know, and a lot of them, they need to go to some parenting classes.
Yes.
You know, you have to learn how to parent these children.
Right.
I have a 16-year-old I adopted. I get on her and she get back and say, whatever. I say, I am parenting you.
Yes.
You know, I'm not on your side. I'm not on any side. I'm going to teach you the right thing by being your parent and parenting.
Amen.
And that's the key right there. We said parenting.
Parenting.
We've lost the art of parenting.
Yes.
Because that's got to start in the home. We got to get back to the basics. What we were taught, we turned out okay. We went on the best level. We turned out okay.
Right.
We didn't have all these behavior problems because we knew that, hey, you acted up, somebody's going to get you. You're going to get it at school, you get it at home, your neighbor going to get you, grandma. So you had a line that you had to go through, but you knew discipline was something that you had to behave, and you know when you went to church, you sit up, you act right. You just don't go in anybody's house acting crazy.
Mm.
I mean,
That's
you went to school, you did your work, you behaved, and you went home.
Yes.
You didn't want no note going home that, okay, mom don't let mom come to the school.
Yes.
right.
Yes.
Oh, it was over.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
you got to beat that school. The principal probably got you too, you know, and then you got some when you got home again.
Yeah.
You know, but we just weren't acting up in school the way kids act up now.
No.
Cuss the teacher out, you know,
Hit the
say all
teacher,
hit the teacher.
Fight, beat up the teacher.
Yeah.
She had a year, 15-year-old hitting the teacher.
Mm.
We never did that, and
No.
we're scared to hit ourselves,
Right.
but on the teacher.
Oh, yeah.
You know, so no, you don't
Hey,
do that kind
I
of
had
stuff.
some teachers I know you were gonna rap back.
Exactly.
If you did, you got to bounce the flow, you know, right?
That's right. That's right.
They handled you.
But it comes to the parenting
Right.
and knowing how
Right.
to parent.
Right.
Number one. Number two, patience.
Patience.
It comes with being patient as you parent.
Right.
You know, and then number three, and I say this, putting yourself behind to be
Yes.
there for that child
Yes.
as you parent them.
Yes.
And don't be their
Yes.
friend.
Yes.
Be their parent.
That's my next
Right,
thing. No
and that's
friend.
right,
I'm not
and
your
that's
friend.
where I think a lot of it's happened. We've given our kids so much that now they demand things from you. And then if you don't turn around and give them what they want, then they want to jump on you.
Mm-mm.
Come on now.
Mm-mm.
Now what happened to parenting?
Yeah.
Either you said no, you was not going to get that, and that was the end of that.
Mhm.
But now these kids are attacking parents
They
because
biological parents.
Yeah,
Right,
biological.
right. That's keeping them at home.
That's right.
Yeah.
Now the question is, who is teaching it young? And I'm
Mhm.
gonna say young. We have a lot of young parents out
Yes,
there
yes.
who are
Mhm.
teaching these young parents how to parent.
That's right. That's
That's
right.
what
Now-
needs to be done.
Now,
That's right. That's
now,
right.
the church got to be that link. They got all these mothers in the church have been parenting all their life.
That's
Well,
right.
baby,
Come on,
yeah.
so why can't we get these mothers? Come on up to the school. Come on up to the school. Have the mother squad come through there.
Here
Well,
we
they
go
need to come
again.
to the school because they
Yeah.
ain't going to
Yeah.
church.
But this is the thing.
Hello?
This is the thing. Are these young parents willing to be
Yes.
trainable,
Yes.
Right.
teachable,
Yes.
to be coachable?
Right.
Will they
willing?
exactly? Are they willing to learn how to do this to help their child?
Mm.
Number two, do they have the time? Do they want to put in the time to
Right.
do it? A lot of young parents are working 2 jobs
Right.
to take care of these kids.
Right.
So here we go back to the church. Sundays,
Mhm.
Saturdays, the evening time.
Mm.
Make the church available for
For the
them to come.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not only for them to come to the church, but get some of these mothers, get some of these mothers to go out to their house,
Right,
to
right.
build a relationship
Right.
with them, to
Right.
go out to the house and say, hey, your
Yeah,
child can't be doing
And
that.
that's- and you hit the point. Getting the church to go out to the community.
Yes.
Right.
The church needs to know everybody within a 2-mile radius that's in their community. Go down. You're not gonna do is. Did you know Miss Smith down there? Her boy is out of school. Oh yeah, we went down to the deacons. We went down and knocked on the door.
Right,
We found out
right.
what's going on in the community.
Mhm.
The church has the opportunity to save the community.
Right.
We have the opportunity, but are we willing to step outside the doors?
So let's go back to your previous conversation about the church, particularly in a post-COVID area
Right.
where the church was
Shut down.
shut down. I mean, for the most part, churches
Yeah.
were shut down.
Yeah.
A culture that has gotten outside of church culture,
Yes.
you know, in terms of visitation, in
Mhm.
terms of, you know, evaluation,
Right.
and that's definitely in terms of fear of retaliation
Mhm.
from doing what historically and culturally that we did
Right,
as a
right,
community, right?
right.
And that fear,
That's right.
respect, and
Mhm.
community.
Mhm.
I think that as a convening organization, as leadership organizations, it would do us well to first start with training churches
Mhm.
and then using the churches to train community.
Mhm.
Because I think
Mhm.
that those walls
Yeah.
have to be rebuilt.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
ecosystem of care is struggling. And
Well,
I won't say it's failing or it's gone. I'm
yeah.
just gonna say it's struggling.
So how do we? The conversation is, how do we as the church community reach our community? How do we provide this question about services? How do we follow with families, making sure they're safe? How do we do all of that? That conversation has to start within not City Hall, but in the church hall. You know, where we can sit down. Pastors who lead our communities,
Mm-hmm.
they are the leaders.
Yep.
You know, and everybody's looking up to the pastors for answers. but the pastors don't have all the answers. But I think if we coming together as church members, as a church body, and just look out for one family, if we just put one family as okay, we're gonna find that one. Let's one church adopt one family.
That's right.
We got a church on every corner almost here in Tallahassee.
Right.
So, but if that church adopt one family, they wrap their arms around that for make sure. Okay, mom, if you having problems getting to work, okay, maybe we can give you some bus tokens.
Right.
Or if your child is having a problem with school, we can go to our clothes closet here and get some sneakers and some shoes and whatever to give our kids.
Right.
So take that burden off the mother when she's so worried about the little things. But they don't have to always have the Jordans and all the designer stuff, but give them the basic stuff that they need until mom get on her feet, or dad and the family gets together and they, okay, we can, mom just lost a job. Now she's struggling. And now the department is involved.
Right.
And then, okay, now the department is here. Mom couldn't help that she lost a job.
Right.
So how can we help mom get on her feet
Right.
to keep the department from removing her kids?
That's right. You got to start in the church.
Yeah.
You got families in the church. Not only that, you can even start with outreach.
Yeah.
You go get these children.
Right.
On Sunday, they come to church. Hey, you
Well, let me
start
tell you,
bringing
somebody
them to
else coming to the community getting the children.
Exactly.
Okay, now why can't we go get our own kids?
That's right.
Yeah.
Go get them. Don't let them come. Go get
Go
them.
get them.
Go get the children.
Go get
Them.
yeah.
Go to these different communities
Yeah.
and pick up the children. Bring
Yeah.
them to church. A lot of times, the people in the church don't want to be bothered with these children that's bad, these children that don't listen, these children. But we have to grab them.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
do.
Because if we don't grab them,
Yeah.
who else going to do
Somebody
it?
else gonna grab them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It ain't going to be a
Something
church
else gonna grab
member.
them. Yeah.
It's going to be the gang.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know, it's going to be the trafficker.
The
That's who's going
yeah.
to grab them.
That's right.
Right.
But we could go out and grab them and bring them to the church. Go
That's
to
right.
the communities and bring them to
You
the
know,
church.
and it's like I said, it's about the community wrapping their arms around them. And just to give an example, we were hosting our 10th annual Perfect Match tennis tournament last week, but the rain is out. So, but what that does, we open an opportunity where kids anywhere in the community can come out to this free clinic, learn how to play tennis. It's a day, but then we're going to make a referral for them to go over to FAMU to the Venom and get free tennis classes where these kids can have something to channel their energy.
Yes.
Then who never know? There might be another Venus or Serena in there.
Right.
We never know, but we got to expose them, give them opportunities, take them out of the streets,
Right.
put them in. We grew up at the Dade Street Recreation Center. That was like,
Right.
you knew
Right.
at the rec center.
Right.
Get our kids to come back, provide those programs through parks and recs or whatever, through the churches, to get our kids off the street, but engaging in something that's going to help them to grow
That's right.
and not help them to, follow the gangs who will scoop them up real easily, have them selling drugs, and what next thing they're in jail.
Right. So there's a lot of information that's been shared today, and I think that there's probably a community forum in the stirrings here in the conversation. If you've been tuned in today, we have been talking with Reverend Al Williams with One Church, One Child of Florida.
Yes.
And you've also been hearing from Olivia Thomas with the Northwest Florida Health Network, all working to ensure safe, equitable circumstances and situations for Florida's foster children in foster care. You are tuned into the Greg James Community Show. This show airs every Wednesday at 2 p.m. on Hallelujah 95.3. I said that on purpose that way, Dr. We got the thumbs up. Listen, we are definitely out of time, but I don't think that we're outside of purpose. So I look forward to, in the stead of our host, Pastor Greg James, we thank you all for coming, bringing this conversation to the community. And real quick, mention to them the event that's coming up.
Yes, this coming on the 11th. Next Thursday we'll be over in Gaston County at New Dimensions Church. We'll be having a community prayer breakfast about how do we save our families, how do we provide services through the school board, through all of the partners there. So we go from county to county, city to city, all across the state, trying to save our families, and we need you to be there.
All right, and we'll make sure we push that out. And any announcements real quick that you'd like to make as we close out?
No, man.
Well, listen.
I think, and it's gonna take me a little longer to think.
That's right. That's right. Well, in our closing, I will close with this. We need more families for our children. If you're interested in becoming a foster care parent or an adoptive parent, go online on One Church, One Child. They are on the internet and they are on Facebook. You can go to www.ocfl.org or you can contact our guests here. We'll make sure we put it out there on the web. Thank y'all so much for tuning in, and until next time, be absolutely blessed.
Amen.
Amen.
Hey, I love
That
that.
was
If
good.
you're online here and you've been listening, thank you so much for your comments. We're going to make sure we publish this show so that people can hear the awesome work that's being done by this and many organizations serving our community's foster children. And if you're interested in becoming a foster or adoptive parent,
Yes.
please make sure to tag or inbox us. You can inbox Hallelujah. You can inbox Greg James. You can inbox Christy Henry. There are plenty of opportunities to do that. Thank y'all so much for tuning in, and we will see y'all next week.
All right, peace.
Oh, this was
Oh,
great.
super.
This was great. This was
Thank you.
great. Y'all, first of all, thank you for